UFC 261 full card predictions and betting preview. Very exciting card. The first card with fans back for the UFC. Super excited to hear the audience there. Should be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And let's start it off with the first fight of the night. Women's bout here. Ariane Carnelossi versus Na Liang. Few Asian prospects on this card from China, actually. All right, let's talk about this matchup. From what I've seen of Ariane Cagliossi, a very jacked girl. She's in incredible shape and has a lot of muscle mass, especially, being at the 115-pound weight class. I mean, she does have some muscle density on her. Na Liang, her style is supposedly very similar to Ronda Rousey. Does have some losses outside of the UFC, but currently riding a win streak. If you look at the competition level, though, for Na Liang, it's a bit spotty, whereas her opponent at least has some UFC experience now. Sometimes a bit stiff with her striking, likes to move forward and is very strong in the clinch, and does have 8 wins by knockout. I believe Na Liang and Carliosi is a fairly competitive fight. I think it goes the distance here, and I think that Carliosi gets it done. I feel like she's more well-rounded. The one thing that I'll mention that scares me here, 5'9". That's a very tall girl. My concern is that reach advantage could very well get her a win. She's only 24, fighting a very legit fighter. I think Ariane will look to get this fight to the ground, but it's not going to be easy against Na Liang. A lot of cage work I expect, and that's why I have her by decision. But with that serious height difference, if you were thinking about throwing any bit of substantial bet down or put her in a parlay, I would probably recommend passing. There's too many unknowns. This Chinese prospect could go out there and really surprise us all, especially at 5'9", 115. That's like extremely tall. That might be the tallest female strawweight in the UFC. Next fight on the card, Jeff Molina versus Quilong Aori. Fight here in the flyweight division. A lot of prospects in the flyweight division. I like this fight. Quilong is no easy out for Jeff Molina. Molina's a very good striker. You saw that in his fight over on Dana White's Contender Series. Likes to switch the stances up. Does have very good hands and nice overhand punches. 5 of his wins by submission, 2 by knockout, and 1 by decision, with Aori with an explosive striker who's very dangerous and has some flying knee knockouts on the record as well. Substantial, or rather susceptible slightly to takedowns, but it's not a substantial deficiency, and especially in this fight with Molina, I do think it is competitive, but it's hard to pick Aori here. For me, it was very difficult, but I do think Molina in this fight, I like the prop bet of sub or decision here. If you look at Molina, he has a pretty well-rounded skill set. Aori known for going the distance, 11 of his wins by decision. I think just a decision prop bet here, fight going the distance, is very likely, especially this fight in the flyweight division. So that's what I like the most, but I do think Jeff Molina gets the win here, and I think he does it by a decision. I think does have potential here in this flyweight division, and we'll see what Quilong Aori does bring. It's another Chinese prospect on the card. There's also one more, I believe. Next fight of the night, Zhang versus Rodrigo Vargas. Lots of names on this undercard here. Some guys that are lesser known, foreign guys. Vargas did fight against, name is now totally escaping me, but I know exactly who it is. Brock Weaver. It was against Brock Weaver. That was his last fight. It was a disqualification. He actually kneed him in the face when Brock was completely down. It was a pretty bad move, at least fight IQ wise. Zhang is no easy fight, and this, out of all the prospects from China here, this guy might be the scariest one. Not extremely tall here for the weight class, but at the end of the day, lightweight division, 5'11", decent reach, 21 years of age too. He's very young. What I've seen, he is good with his striking. I think he could be a serious problem here for Vargas, who does get over aggressive at times and is hittable. It's hard though, even with Zhang having 11 knockouts on the record. You have a guy like Vargas, he's not easy to put away. I do think we could see a wrong TKO or a decision here, but I do lean decision for wrong in this matchup. It would be very impressive if he can go out there and KO this guy, and I don't necessarily have that high of confidence on him doing it, especially, at 21 years of age. He's an extremely young fighter, and how far is he from his prime? Granted, he could still be very high level, and beating Vargas here, I do think he can, but the man strength difference, the knockout power that may start to develop even more so later on. Still a good fight here. Zhu Rong at the minus 250 is a little bit wide, especially for, not having that UFC level experience, but I still like him here, and I think he's a very good pickup from what I've seen of the guy. Legitimate striking skills. Next fight of the night here, Dana Batigral versus Kevin Natividad. This fight gets me very excited. Both guys strikers, both knockout power in their hands. And Natividad got slept badly by Miles John in his last fight. If you go back and watch that fight, there were good moments for Natividad there, but at the end, that uppercut put him completely unconscious. That's a tough knockout to take. That's not a good sign. I mean, granted, he took some time from him. I don't think it's been that long, though, because I do feel like I saw that fight fairly recently. So it was in October. Now it's April. I mean, he did take a fair amount of time off, which I think that was enough for a knockout loss, but he was brutally put out. You look at his opponent here. We beat Guido Canetti in that fight. He showed really good striking. Knockout power in his hands for Dana Batigral. I do believe he can beat Kevin Natividad, but it is a close fight. Natividad's never a guy that quits. He does bring it in. I mean, he was put to sleep in his last fight. I do think there's a chance we see Batigral do it to him here. I'm going to pick Dana Batigral by knockout. He's a minus 150 favorite. Maybe take a stab at the prop bet of him by a knockout inside the distance pick. I don't know. I think he has the power to put away Kevin Natividad, though Natividad is also good fighter. It's just the matchup here. I lean Batigral. Overall, pretty solid card from top to bottom. A lot of lighter weight classes on this card. This fight here in the featherweight division, you remember Tristan Connolly. He beat Michel Pereira, which I'm very amazed. He fought at 170 there. Now he's down at 145. Granted, this is some time later, I believe, around 2 years since that fight. Pat Sabatini, exciting prospect, the CFFC. He does have a pretty good skill set, especially on the ground. Lots of wins by submission for him. You look at Sabatini, 10 wins by submission. His reach is not listed, but he does have a 69-inch reach, so he has a 1-inch advantage over Connolly. Connolly does have a very dangerous grappling game. As I said, he beat Michel Pereira at 170. Now he's at 45. 9 wins by submission. I don't love a bet here because it's grappler versus grappler. You have a younger guy at 30 who's definitely on the rise and is coming in with momentum. I mean, he's at a minus 225, but Connolly should be a live dog and he should be very respected out there. This is by no means a mismatch, and this is more of a competitive fight than these odds will have you believe. I do lean Sabatini, but I don't like a bet at all here. I'm going to pick him on a decision over Tristan Connolly. The inactivity being 35, I think that can play a factor, and we can see Sabatini get the win here. And as far as the wrestling department goes, maybe you got to lean it to Sabatini. Still, watch out for the submissions of Connolly. That's a competitive fight, and personally skipping a bet on that one. Now, the next fight, Brendan Allen versus Karl Roberson. Brendan Allen had lost in his last fight, got put out against Sean Strickland. Strickland, very well-rounded guy. Karl Roberson, it's a good fight between both of them, both coming off losses. Karl Roberson lost to Marvin Vettori, who's now emerged as a top guy in the world. Brendan Allen does bring a very good submission game. You look at Roberson's losses, a lot of them are by submission. I feel like Roberson, striking advantage, definitely. Glory kickboxing background. Has been in there with like some legitimate high-level kickboxers, but when you get it in the clinch, you get it to the ground, it's going the way of Brendan Allen. I pick Allen, submission, round number 2. I actually like the prop bet of submission there. Minus 135 favorite. The plus 110 dog props, at least for me, have not released yet, but when they do come in, feel like that could potentially be a pickup if the plus money is worth it, because I like Allen in a submission here over Karl Roberson. I think he has the tools to beat Roberson for sure. And it's a lot of grappling. I think he's going to get the sub. I don't know. I don't think Roberson will be able to compete on the ground if it gets there. Now, the next fight on this prelim card, Dwight Grant versus Stefan Sakuluk. Very interesting fight between these two, because you look at Dwight Grant, I mean, at one point was pretty good, got a split decision for Alan Jouban, bad knockout loss in his last fight against Daniel Rodriguez. 10-3 as a pro, a lot of power in his hands. He's 36 years of age now. Does it concern me a bit? Yes, especially coming off a knockout loss in his last one. Stefan Sakuluk plus 205 dog in this one. 29 years of age, has been out of the game for a while. We'll quickly pull this up. I think it's been at least 2 years. 2018, so that's going on three and a half years here. I mean, that is a long time to be away from the game. That is a very long time. It's rather 2.5 years, but still a long time, almost 3 years to be away from fighting. Still, Razmanamiev is a legit name in a very tricky fight, and he went the distance, striking wise, had a couple moments, did get some takedowns in that fight. The man can grapple, and he definitely is going to be looking to grapple Dwight Grant, who's a hell of a knockout artist. If you look at Dwight Grant, I mean, knockout striker, definitely. Grappling skill, yes, but I feel like at 36, Sakuluk could beat Dwight Grant. I'm not going to say it's the most confident underdog pick ever, but I'm going to pick the plus 205 dog in Stefan Sakuluk here to out-grapple Dwight Grant. I don't think he goes out there and gets knocked out in the first round. He went the distance with Amiev, who's a very difficult fight. Granted, Dwight Grant, a different style than that, does bring a lot of punching power. I'm going to pick Sakuluk here on a decision victory over Dwight Grant and what would be a pretty stellar upset. Next fight on the card is Randy Brown versus Alex Oliveira. This is a fight between Oliveira, a guy who's been around for a very long time at this point, veteran of the game, gives fighters very difficult tests. I mean, you look, he fought his UFC debut against Gilbert Burns, and Alex almost was able to win that fight. Granted, he got submitted. Randy Rude Boy Brown, this is a fun matchup between both these guys. Middle of the line welterweights. Definitely feel like Brown, though, more so rising up. Oliveira, maybe potentially more down. But granted, both of them one loss out of their past three, so 2-1 in their last three. That's not bad for either. If you look here at the record of Alex Oliveira, we'll talk about some of the opponents. Oliveira does bring in good Thai boxing, and he's capable on the ground. He's a strong guy in the clinch positions, has pretty good takedowns. Got beat by Shavkat Rakhmonov there, but that was a clear mismatch when you look into Shavkat, even though I think the odds were pretty close. Yeah, the odds had him near pick'ems for that, but it was all Shavkat's fight. But I mean, beat Max Griffin, Peter Sabata, decisions here. He's known to go the distance, not an easy guy to finish. Randy Brown does have some finishes on the record, has 4 submissions and 6 knockouts, so he's a guy that gets people out of there. I mean, you look, beat Warley Alves, submission. That's impressive. Alves is not an easy out. Brian Barberina, got a stoppage of him. Obviously, some losses throughout, losing to Vicente Luque. At this point, he's a very high-level guy, and that was 8 months ago. I think that he comes out there and beats Alex Oliveira here. I feel like Randy Brown is a good pickup. Minus 165 favorite to the plus 130 dog. I think he has the tools to beat Oliveira unless something weird happens. I mean, granted, Randy Brown has been in some weird fights and some weird things have happened. I'm going to go a Brown decision. I think the advantage as far as being the taller guy could be a factor. Definitely the grappling ability. And I do think he pulls this one out on a decision victory over Alex Oliveira. The next fight of the night brings us to this main card. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. This main card starts off with Anthony Lionheart Smith and Jimmy Crute crossroads fight. Much of a crossroads fight is you can really get a 12-1 guy who's all the tools to be a contender versus Anthony Smith, an aging veteran who was a contender, fought for the world title, lost to John Jones, has lost fights since then, badly beaten by Glover, dominated by Rakic, and then in his last fight did beat Devin Clark. Jimmy Crute lost an upset to Misha Surkanov, and then he went on to beat Modestas Bauskas his last one. And let's see who he beat in the one before, because the name is escaping me. Michael Olenjachuk. So, I mean, good wins. He did have that disappointing loss. But other than that, you look at the guys he's beaten. Sam Alvey by a knockout in the first. He beat Paul Craig by a submission. That's extremely impressive now, seeing how well Craig has improved. Losing to Sirkanov is kind of a bad loss, but tricky things happen in fights, and he had his moments there. Then he beat Olenjachuk, beat Bauskas. It's a continuous progression forward. This guy's also very young, 25 years of age. Are you kidding me? This kid is improving day in and day out. He beats Anthony Smith here. Anthony Smith is not an easy guy to finish. I do think Crute could get the finish, but more likely a decision. Could see grappling too, because Anthony Smith does pose a threat with his kickboxing, especially the range advantage. You look at that reach, 76 to 72.4, 2 inches taller. From the outside, it's Anthony Smith's world, the kickboxing range. But if Jimmy Crute can get in boxing range, if he can get in the clinch, that would be most optimal. Clinch against the cage, get the fight to the ground, put Smith where he struggles, and it's on his back. And I don't think he goes and throws up a submission like he did with Devin Clark on Jimmy Crute. I just don't see that happening. Jimmy Crute is pretty much a lock pick here, and I think he definitely gets the win over Anthony Smith in this matchup. The next fight of the night, former champion Chris Weidman rematches Uriah Hall. Their first fight was years ago, both outside the UFC at that point. So this is a long time coming rematch between both these guys. Chris Weidman hasn't looked great as of late. Good work with his grappling, as always. Beat Omari Akhmadov in the last one. Quick knockout loss to Dominic Reyes, very forgivable. Reyes went on to give John Jones hell in the fight after. You can't really knock him. You look at fights before that, I mean, disappointing results for a while now. He was undefeated, 13-0. Unlucky number 13 was very unlucky for Chris Weidman. After getting to that 13, he went on a 3-fight losing streak. Good names, very good names. Beats Kelvin Gastelum, very respectable victory. Lost to Jacare, lost to Reyes. He takes on Uriah Hall, who, in my opinion, stylistically is a good matchup for Chris Weidman if he's on point. Uriah Hall's takedown defense is good, but it's not at the level that he's going to be able to stop Chris Weidman if Chris Weidman chain wrestles. Weidman's the taller guy. Yes, the reach is freakishly long of Uriah Hall. He has the power, but he wasn't impressive against Silva. He wasn't impressive against Carlos Jr. Wasn't impressive, or he was impressive in the fact that he got the knockout, but he was losing to Bevon Lewis. In my opinion, this is Weidman's fight all day at Pick'em's odds. If Weidman shows up looking okay, he really should beat Uriah Hall. He's a perfect stylistic matchup for him. Both 36, though, hasn't looked good, Chris Weidman, since losing a fight. So my confidence in Weidman in his prime is a different story. But right now, I am a little nervous. But I do like Chris Weidman at a victory in this matchup. I like the bet of that, especially at Pick'em's odds. I feel like riskier parlay pick potentially as well. Do I want to throw down a prop bet for Chris Weidman? The reason I don't is because I do believe there's a chance he finishes Uriah Hall, and Chris Weidman is a guy that can finish in diverse methods. He gets submissions, he can get ground and pound, or he can grind out a decision. So I'm going to pick Weidman on a decision, but I think it can go multiple ways. But I see him beating Uriah Hall, who definitely has a puncher's chance. But I think that we can get a win from Weidman. If Hall goes out there and has a spectacular moment, it just popped in my mind, maybe some crazy spinning back kick, I would be very impressed, but it is what it is. That's the fight game at this point, so I would just take the L on that one. But I do think it's possible, always with Uriah Hall, something emphatic could happen. So stay tuned and make sure you tune into that fight, even though I think Weidman stylistically, bad matchup for him. The next fight brings us to our championship fights. We got 3 of them. That's exciting. 3 championship fights on one card. It's always a special occasion when it happens. Women's flyweight title on the line. You have Valentina Shevchenko, the pretty much number 2 pound-for-pound girl in the world, versus Jessica Andrade, savage contender, former strawweight champion. Was a top girl even at the women's bantamweight division. She looked very good coming over into the women's flyweight division, up from 115. And you look at the fight, Caitlin Chukagian, the body shots, I remember that fight, put her down easily. A lot of power in the punches of Jessica Andrade. Very good boxer and aggressive. The thing is, she's fighting a Muay Thai purist, somebody with beautiful striking. Valentina Shevchenko is one of the most high-level female strikers in MMA, period. She's probably one of the most, as I said, she's the number 2 pound for pound. She's an excellent martial artist. Her striking is very crisp. She's competed at a very high level with striking only. She's going to be better than Andrade here. I think we could get a knockout for Valentina because Andrade at times does leave herself open, but I'm not 100% confident. I like the knockout or decision for Valentina Shevchenko. I see Shevchenko as pretty much a lock pick. I don't even really see her losing a round here. Andrade could potentially land something crazy and big, but Shevchenko has shown durability, going the distance with Amanda Nunes. You can't pick against Shevchenko. She's a lock pick, and I do think there's possibility of a finish, but I like decision or TKO the most here in this matchup with Andrade. Should be an excellent fight between both of them. I am pumped for this matchup. At the minus 400 price, it's a parlay piece. Jessica Andrade at the plus 300. She would be a risky dog pickup. I really don't see. Besides, obviously, everybody has a puncher's chance that's at this level. I don't see her matching up skill for skill well with Valentina when they get in there, especially with the height disadvantage. All right, we got at the co-main event now, and this is very interesting. Rose Namajunas said some interesting things with Weili Zhang. Zhang, excellent martial artist. Very difficult fight for both girls. You look at Zhang's last fight, she gave us beauty as far as fighting goes. A war with very difficult Joanna and Jacek. And that fight was probably one of the best women's fight ever, maybe the best women's fight of all time. Rose Namajunas then fights Jessica Andrade in a war recently in her last fight. Both are coming off very difficult fights, but one was 5 rounds where Zhang did take a lot of damage, got a very close split decision over Joanna Jacek, who's a very common opponent for Rose Namajunas. Beat her twice. Styles make fights. It's not MMA math. It really doesn't work too often. But I do feel like Rose Namajunas has a legitimate shot here to pull off the upset. The thing is, she looks very hurt in that fight with Andrade. I think Zhang proved incredible toughness. I don't know if Rose has that same level of toughness. If the war is getting heavy and we're getting into rounds 4 and 5, the championship rounds, if it's not just going Rose's way, I definitely lean Zhang. So I'm going to pick Zhang here. I think she wins this fight. I like a decision here for Weili Zhang. I think that's how she gets it done. Maybe a TKO. It definitely could happen. She knocked out Jessica Andrade. I'm never going to doubt Weili Zhang could get a TKO, but I think more so a decision. I think we are in store, at least for the first 2 rounds, maybe even the 3. Extremely competitive action, but I think as the championship rounds shift, Weili Zhang is going to start wearing away at Rose Namajunas. So that's why I like a late TKO or a decision here for Weili Zhang. As a minus 190 bet, she's not a bad pickup, but Rose Namajunas, live underdog. Highest level of women's mixed martial arts matchmaking here. I mean, I love this fight. I was super pumped when they announced it. We finally get to see it. This card is amazing, and this is going to be a special fight in this co-main event. It could be one of the best fights of all time. They have, history as far as common opponents do go. Jessica Andrade, common opponent of both girls, 1 win over Rose and 1 loss. Weili Zhang, quick knockout of her, and then the Joanna and Jacek fight. 2 fights within Jacek for Namajunas. And just a 1 there, but I think another one will come for very difficult Weili Zhang. Now, main event, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. This fight is for the welterweight title. We saw this fight recently, and we kind of know how this one could potentially go. Yes, Jorge Masvidal is training for this fight specifically. He does have a ton of knockout power. I've doubted Kamaru Usman time and time again. I don't want to doubt him again, especially in that performance against Gilbert Burns. He took big shots from Gilbert, didn't go out. He has a very good chin. Beautiful jab was worked in that fight. I feel like he is going to try and do similar to what he did in that first fight with Usman and Masvidal. The first fight was telling of how this fight will go. A lot of cage work, make it ugly. But I think Usman, in the back of his mind, is going to want that finish a bit more. So I do think this fight is better than the first one. I think Masvidal can definitely get his licks in, maybe even steal around. Maybe he can hurt Usman. But I do believe on the scorecards, they will be read. I think this fight goes the distance. Kamaru Usman gets a hard-fought decision win against Jorge Masvidal, who's a monster as far as striking goes, does have good takedown defense. But I think this is Usman's fight, and I think he is going to go out there and win it in a competitive fashion, though. I could see 49-46. I feel like that's a realistic scorecard, maybe 50-45, and just continual domination from Usman. It might be a lot of grappling. I'll be honest. I'm going to warn you guys. I could see this fight being a lot of, not even just like entertaining grappling. I'm talking about like cage control, foot stomps, Usman's specialty. We'll see what the ref does too if he breaks it up faster. Masvidal's dangerous from range. He has a knockout power. He does have a puncher's chance, but Usman takes a very good shot, has a very stiff jab, and an excellent wrestling credentials and background, and he beat Masvidal once before. Usman is my pick at the minus 400. I like him better maybe as a parlay piece than a straight up bet. I don't really love the props in this fight. I think sit down and enjoy this one. And if you want to bet on Usman at the minus 400, of course, there's going to be people that give some love to Masvidal and throw money down. He does have a legit puncher's chance. If you're going to throw it down on Masvidal, I feel like you might as well do by knockout, because I think that's his key to, if he can knock out Usman, he wins this fight. So if you're going prop bet on Masvidal, throw it down for by knockout, because I think that's the way and only way he wins this fight. I like Usman by a decision, and I think he gets it done. Overall, pretty entertaining card here. From top to bottom is good stuff. The main event is going to be excellent. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure that you guys smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't yet, also follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I will see you all in the next video.